Hey, I'm Casper of CSGuitar89 on YouTube, and you're watching the Game Over Jesse Show.
I want to start off by saying thank you for being a part of the interview.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Alright, so can you share with us a little about yourself and why you started making video game covers?
Well, I'm CSGuitar89. I have been making covers on YouTube of video game covers for approximately 7 years, I think now.
Yeah.
A little bit less. I lost track of it. But yeah, and basically how I started, I'm remembering working on a couple of musical projects, and I kind of just wanted to do something on the side, kind of have something where I could try and record my own stuff and see how that was working out, because I was kind of experimenting with home recording. So I just wanted something that I could experiment my recording techniques with. So I figured I'd just record a simple song, which was He's a Pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean. And figured I'd record that and then see how I can mess with some tones and see how I would go about direct recording, all that kind of stuff, drum programming. And I've been experimenting with that a little bit at that point, but I just wanted to see how I could turn that into an entire song. So that's basically what got me started on that, and I don't know what got into me that I was like, I want to upload this to YouTube, really. But I guess I just wanted to share it and see what people thought about it, kind of just like wondering if anyone had any feedback. But it actually like turned out to be pretty popular, or more popular than I thought it would be, and it was kind of like addictive at that point where I was like, I want to put out some more stuff, and this is apparently working out well for me, and I was really enjoying the whole production of music. So basically from creating an arrangement and recording everything, then mixing, mastering, recording video, editing video. So for me, it was basically the whole package that made it even more interesting.
Yeah.
So
alright. In your songs, usually the original melody of the covers is what you normally use as the lead. So
yeah.
How do you go about coming up with rhythms and drums and bass and everything to match without making it sound completely different than the original source?
Yeah, basically it's just all, it's a creative process. It's how you would normally go about writing an original song or something, but you already have that specific thing that is set in stone, which is the leads pretty much. You can mess around with that a little bit, but not too much, or else it wouldn't be the original tune anymore, obviously.
Right.
Basically what I do first is the drum programming, and with that I try to like push the song in a certain direction. So if I play the song over and over and over and just see how it sounds and what kind of feeling I have with this. It's like, do I want to go for like a really heavy kind of like heavy metal type of thing, or trash metal, or do I feel it has more of a funk or even jazz vibe? So I kind of try and get a feel of the song and program the drums accordingly.
Yeah.
So and when I have the drum track laid down, pretty much 75% of the arrangement is already done. So what I do with that is I just grab my guitar and start messing around, and I basically don't really have an idea. I usually don't use tabs or anything. I just sit down with my guitar and start kind of experimenting with different sounds and different arrangements, and see where I can take it from there. And I try to kind of grab inspiration from bands that I like, or fellow video game guitarists that I really respect, and just kind of take it from there and see how I can use all those different elements to create something that I find to be interesting.
Alright. Was it a learning experience going from when you first started out to where you are now?
Oh, absolutely. I feel I've definitely
instead of just a lead or one lead guitar, you have a lot of I can't really think of, like, there's a lot of harmonization with the lead
Yeah,
guitar
absolutely.
now.
I've been using that more and more. Obviously, you have your basic rhythm track, which I always try to keep very like as the foundation of the track, pretty much. So bass, drums, and rhythm guitar. And with the drums, I tend to get a little bit more fancy to make it interesting and to create an interesting arrangement.
Yeah.
But I'm really trying to record additional guitars, and I feel that's where I can add my own kind of twist to the song. If you record some EBO, for example, which is like more of a violin type of sound, or if you go for some really ambient kind of reverb stuff, or even some simple acoustic stuff. Usually it's very simple guitar parts, but they make the song that much more interesting and give it kind of your own twist to it.
A few years ago, you released a full-length tribute album to the entire Legend of Zelda series. Can you tell us about how that came about?
That was definitely my biggest project that I've done for YouTube and in general musically. It was always one of my ambitions and kind of goals to release my own album, and the idea for that kind of like came to be. I was working on a collaboration with another person, and unfortunately it didn't really work out. We didn't came to like an agreement, and we just didn't like make any good progress. So I was like, okay, I still have this song, and I recorded these parts, but I never released them, so it's kind of a shame. And I could finish them by myself, but it was like, okay, but I also have another song, a Zelda song, in the works, and I kind of want to finish that as well. So it's like, maybe I can put those tracks on like an EP, for instance, and release it. But I was like, okay, I have these 5 songs recorded now, I can release it, or I can kind of take it like a step further and release it into an entire album, and actually kind of achieve my goal of releasing a full-length album, and that's where I decided that I really wanted to do this, and especially since obviously Zelda is one of my favorite video game series, and I've been enjoying those games for so many years now. So I really wanted to record all those songs and put them together on an album, and eventually it became my goal to have at least 15 songs and record over an hour of music.
Right.
And it took me a lot longer than I thought it would. I thought it was going to take me about half a year maybe, but I think it ended from start to finish. I think it ended up taking me about 1.5 until I was completely satisfied with the stuff that I put out.
Alright, well, it apparently turned out really good for you, because just about every Zelda fan website that I can think of posted about them. So
I'm really glad that you say that, and that's definitely something I'm very, very happy with.
Yeah. Your latest big project, I would say, you recently started a massive collaboration with guest musicians from YouTube. Can you tell us a little about that?
Basically, I got the idea. I have worked on several collaborations before that, and I really wanted to get people involved, and Kumala are actually video game guitarists or guitarists as well. So I kind of wanted to give everyone that opportunity to participate in this project and be a part of it, and I specifically chose to just record the backing track and not be in the spotlight. I wanted other people to play the leads and do that. So I was kind of searching for a song, and the Super Mario song, the File Select theme, obviously it's a classic. I wanted the song that was an absolute classic that everyone would know, and also something that had kind of a more simple melody that everyone could play, so even players who are not that experienced could also participate in the project. plus something that was not too extensive. You know, it's like you don't want to pick a melody and tell everyone you're gonna play that part of it and you're gonna play that part, and eventually it's all gonna get mixed up and it doesn't fit together. So I wanted to choose something simple, but it was definitely a very fun and challenging project. I laid down the backing track first, announced the video, but eventually I got so many submissions that I actually had to extend the backing track to make sure I could fit everyone in there who I wanted to fit in. So that was a really fun project to work on.
Do you have any projects going on other than your video game covers?
I'm kind of like starting up some original work, but it's still very much kind of a concept, and I didn't really think out any direction that I want to take it in, and I still have a lot of work to do in regards to that, but eventually I definitely want to make that step and start recording original music as well, because I just think I can put a little bit more of my own creativity into that and see what I can do with that and challenge myself.
Right. Would it be sort of the same style, where it's not just heavy music, but you have some lighter acoustic stuff, and you're like using all the same instruments, but a wider variety of sounds?
I was actually thinking about that and which direction I want to take it, and I was like, I've been working on video game music for so long now, and playing video games as well, and I was like, that'll always be a part of my inspiration, just like I have a huge, I draw a lot of inspiration from progressive metal and heavy metal for that matter, so it's always going to be kind of inspired by that, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, it's definitely going to be kind of in that area of like a crossover between progressive and kind of more video game-esque, movie-esque kind of sound. That's what I have in mind. So hopefully it'll actually turn out like that.
With the success of your YouTube channel, are you ever randomly approached on the street or anywhere and some fans just like, hey, you're that guy from YouTube?
Mm-hmm. Actually no, but then again, like, what are the chances? There are 7 billion people on this planet, and like I have about 45,000 subscribers, which is awesome, but it's like, what are the chances of really running into someone, you know, if you don't actively look for them? But no, this has actually never happened, and I think one of the reasons for that as well is that a lot of my viewers are actually from the United States, and I live in the Netherlands, so it's
right.
My fan base, I think, over here is a little bit smaller comparatively, so it has actually never happened. There are some people that obviously watch my videos that I know, but those are people that I already knew before I either started it, or who eventually found out about my YouTube channel.
Alright, what kind of projects or anything can we expect from your YouTube channel in the near future?
I'm always trying to keep that a secret, honestly, but obviously I do have some projects in the works, and currently I'm working on a medley. I usually don't want to release too much information about that, and just in case it doesn't work out, or I decide not to release it for whatever reason, but you can definitely expect some more of my work in the future, and I'm always trying to push myself and challenge myself in regards to that, and just try to come up with something original.
Well, one recommendation I have is the Skyward Sword theme, Ballad of the Goddess, I think is the name of it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, and I think you can do a lot of great things with that, and especially from a Zelda kind of perspective, it would be a really great song for me, and something that fits very well with the stuff that I've been doing so far. I know there are a couple of friends and fellow YouTube video game guitarists that have done that song already, but So I'm not sure if I could actually like add something to their rendition already, you know?
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear your take on it.
Oh,
So,
thanks.
yeah.
I'm glad I'll definitely what I can do if I have the inspiration for it. I mean that I'll definitely try.
So moving on to the Zelda series, you mentioned it was one of your favorite video game series.
Yeah, definitely
which,
still is.
Which game in the franchise would you say would be your absolute favorite?
That is always such a it's such a hard question because there's so many good games. Obviously, Ocarina of Time is like an amazing game and has been, I think, my favorite game. I have to say, it's just like there's so much variety in that game, such great gameplay, characters are great, the story is awesome, music, just everything about that game is just, I don't know, it's just really, really special. And obviously I grew up with it as well, so
yeah.
It's a game that you have a lot of nostalgic feelings for, you know?
Yeah. And another thing about Ocarina of Time is just a few years ago it was re-released on the Nintendo 3DS. And the only thing that changed was just the graphics. Like the gameplay, everything stayed the same. So the fact that that's one of the best 3DS games that there is, and it was originally released on the Nintendo 64, says something about how well that game was built.
The fact that the gameplay hasn't changed at all and it still feels relevant and modern.
Yeah, it can go toe-to-toe with any other brand new 3DS or Vita or any handheld game for that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, what would you like to see in the next Zelda game for the Wii U?
Ooh. It's God, that is a different. I've what I would like to see, I guess, I don't know. It's always so tricky because you want it to be innovative, but then again, not too much because you don't want it to like stray away too far from the original Zelda concept.
Right.
I would guess, or I would say just like story development mostly. Just kind of, just like Skyward Sword kind of described the whole story of how Hyrule came to be and kind of like, it's almost like a prequel.
Yeah.
I would like to see another game like that where it explains kind of more about the story in the timeline of the Legend of Zelda.
Do you like each of the Zelda games to kind of, the way they're made is they do connect very loosely to other games, with some connecting more, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask is obviously direct sequels to one another.
Yeah.
But even though they all share the same timeline, they each individually stand out as their own one-off game.
Exactly.
So, would you rather the story be continued and heavily based on other games, or would you like to see one that just completely stands out by itself, that may have a couple references to other games, but pretty much built from the ground up, ignoring all the other Zelda games?
I would say the latter. I think they've been doing a really great job at that, just connecting them loosely, but also creating a completely individual kind of game that has a story of itself, but is also kind of intertwined with the other ones.
Right.
I would definitely love to see that.
Alright, could you give us a couple of your favorite dungeons from the series?
God.
That's another tough question.
It's definitely another tough question because there are so many good ones, you know. I'm gonna say like the dreaded water temple. It's just in Ocarina of Time. It's just such a classic. Everyone always bitches about that one, but I think it's just a really, really, really good one. I guess also, I don't know. I always liked Dragon Rose Island as well from the Wind Waker. Wind Waker, I don't know. It was a game that kind of stood out, but that I've always really liked for just the art style and kind of characters. I know it's not a typical one,
Right.
One that's also kind of been shunned by the hardcore fans, you know, sometimes. But I definitely love that one.
Yeah. It's,
So I would say that. Let me see. There's so many good ones. It's like hard to pick a certain one, you know.
Can you tell us how long you've been playing guitar and experimenting with music?
I have been playing guitar for a little bit over 10 years now, I guess. And I kind of started, it all started as a musical project in high school. One of my friends, we had to come up with this like project for a music class, and my friend was like, oh yeah, I have a guitar and I have a bass at home, so why don't you come over and we can try some stuff out and see what we can do, you know, just nothing serious, but just kind of think of something and ace this project. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And got to his house and played some guitar, and was like, yeah, this is definitely something really cool, and it felt special to me, and it was like, I want to try this and learn how to play the guitar. So I eventually started taking lessons, and did that for a year until my teacher moved, and then I just decided like I'm just gonna try and teach myself basically with the sources that are available online, see where I can take it from there, and I think it worked out pretty okay, and eventually started doing the YouTube kind of stuff. I had been playing in one or two bands, and I always liked that, for the experience and just the overall experience of making music with friends and doing a couple of gigs. But eventually I was like, I just want to do something where I can decide on everything. Kind of like selfish like that, I guess, where I kind of want to, or a control freak for that matter. It's like I wanted to see how it's like to come up with an arrangement and actually take it through the whole process of recording and mixing and mastering. So
yeah, I totally know where you're coming from. My personal experience with bands is there's a lot of drama. It varies depending on the band and the people in it, but usually it comes with a lot of drama. And since I've been recording music by myself, which you actually a few years back helped me out, giving me help with recording advice and stuff like that, I've noticed, aside from not being able to bounce ideas off of people, whereas you're in a band, you can say, hey, does this sound good, or would this chorus sound better with this riff?
Yeah, exactly.
When you're doing it by yourself, you just have to rely on your own opinions, but for the most part, it comes out being what you want it to be.
Exactly, which can both be a good thing or a bad thing in many cases. It's like you said, you can't really show or play anyone your ideas and be like, oh, is this good? But on the other hand, it does make it pretty easy to make decisions, and you don't have to kind of make that sacrifice for like the sake of the band. But I don't have the experience in regards to drama. It was more like everyone was in a completely different kind of genre. I was mostly into progressive metal, and one of my friends was more into like heavy metal. Then I had another friend who was more into funk and acoustic music, and there were like some other people who were into pop. So it was a really cool kind of like melting pot. But eventually you just get to that point where you're like, okay, we have to play covers, and you're like, oh, I kind of don't want to do that song, but I have to play it for the sake of the band. But you also have songs that they don't want to play, and eventually that kind of it doesn't become a problem. But if you really want to take it to the next level and kind of like make it more professional, I guess, and start gigging with that, it just doesn't work, and you have to find people who are kind of more into the same kind of music.
In your YouTube videos, you can clearly see the wall in your room is completely filled with many instruments. Out of all that you own, what would you say is a few of your favorites to play with?
It's funny because mostly my favorite guitars are not even the most expensive ones. As you may have noticed, I'm really liking the white chord Xenox C44.
Right.
It's basically a Les Paul model, but a little bit lighter, a little bit slimmer, and the neck is a little bit thinner as well. But I'm really liking the tone that I'm getting out of it, specifically for lead guitars. The Gibson SG that I have is also a special one for me because I kind of that was my real first serious guitar. You know, you probably know that feeling too. It's like you start out with a basic kind of budget guitar, and eventually you're like, okay, I've been playing this for a while, and it seems kind of limiting. So I want to get something more. I want to get a decent professional guitar, and that was the first one for me.
Right. Okay. Before we wrap up here, could you tell us about your recording process, some of the audio interfaces that you might use, or whether or not you prefer to record live off of an amp with a mic or straight in through an audio interface?
You mean mostly in regards to technology, I assume?
Right.
What I do at home, mostly because it's easier and more user-friendly, I guess, is I record my electrical guitars and my basses directly. So what I basically do, I have the guitar, which is connected to an audio interface, which is a mixing board,
Right.
that sends the signal directly to my computer. And on my computer, I have a plugin that basically is the amplifier and kind of simulates an amplifier. And eventually I can record that sound, but I can also, which you probably know, change it afterwards. So if I'm like, I'm just gonna lay down this track, but I want a different kind of distortion, or I want to add like a phaser or delay or reverb afterwards, I can still make that work in my audio interface or my workstation, rather than having to re-record the guitar part. A little while ago, I got a microphone, and I've been recording all my acoustic guitars with a microphone right now, because I just think you get more of the dynamics of the actual acoustic. But for purposes of for reasons of consistency and ease of use, I always record my electric guitars directly, just because it's easier, and I get the same kind of tone every time. I can just plug in and go. I don't have to set up microphones, and I'm fortunate enough that I have my own studio in my house right now, so I can kind of experiment with microphone placement, and I don't have to remove everything because I have to like set up my bed or anything, or to like sleep there. So I can kind of just leave everything as is and shut the door. But I've been experimenting with that recently, so I still have to kind of work things out in regards to that.
Can you give a couple of your favorite songs that you've worked on throughout all your covers, and some advice for the people that are interested in starting their own video game covers but don't really know the first steps to take?
Yeah, absolutely. To answer your first question, I'm particularly enjoying covers that were a little bit different than the others. So I was listening to the Impact side that I've done, which is a song from Pikmin.
Right.
And I was really enjoying that because it's such a different kind of arrangement. It was a lot of fun to work on, and I feel I could just really put my own kind of style into that and feel into that. So that's one that I definitely enjoyed. Also, most medleys that I've done, I've really enjoyed, because you're also kind of putting your own creativity into that, because you have to create smooth transitions. I'm not saying I succeeded at that, but like I really tried to do that and make that work. So those are the covers that I found most interesting to work on so far. Right. Mostly medleys and things that are just a little bit different than others. So a combination of acoustic and electric guitar, or that kind of stuff. To answer your other question, for players that want to start out, I would definitely say choose songs that you really like to work on yourself. You know, don't do it for anyone else or because like someone else really wants you to record something or whatever. But just pick something that you want to do and that you feel comfortable with, and that you have inspiration for, because that's what it all comes down to, just having inspiration and being creative with that. And if you really feel like it yourself, you're eventually going to come up with a really, really great cover. From a technical point of view, I would say people ask me the question a lot, like, or state like, oh, you have all this equipment, and I've noticed that with some of my friends on YouTube as well. It's like, oh, you have all these equipment and these like big audio interfaces and monitors and whatever, but it's really not anything you need. Basically, what it comes down to for me, I'm still recording with Line 6 Pod, which is a program that's really affordable. I think it's only like 70, 80 bucks. A guitar, which could be any guitar, and basically a drum machine. So, and most people already have their computer set up, so it's really not a huge investment if you think about it. But what it's all about is just creating a sound that's good for you. And I think the internet has been the biggest source for me, or Google for that matter. It's like I started out not knowing how to do anything, and there are still many things that I do not know how to do. But it's all just about looking things up on Google, just if you want to know about compression, for instance, or how to create a guitar sound that cuts through, or just look it up, or listen to your favorite bands, see what they're doing, and try to kind of experiment with that and see what kind of settings have influence on your sound. So, and in regards to creating covers, it's all a matter of putting your own creativity into that and seeing what you can do with a certain arrangement to add your own style to it. And you can just take your inspiration from bands that you really love, and just inspiration that you have. So.
Thank you for being part of the interview. And also, if people were watching this and discovering who you are for the first time, where could they go to learn more about you?
I have my own website, which is CSGuitar89.com. On that website, you can find all kinds of information about me, my playing techniques, how I record, all that kind of stuff. And if people don't know who I am and want to find out some more about me, I would just advise them to go to my YouTube channel, which is CSGuitar89, and I guess just watch a couple of videos and see if you like it.
Alright, thank you again, Casper.
Absolutely no problem, man. Glad to participate. Absolutely, you too, man.
Alright, see ya.